Your hands don't work anymore. Not cold, not numb. They have stopped being hands. They are 2 blocks of meat at the end of your arms, and you cannot feel the oar you are gripping, only the vague pressure of something happening far away. The spray comes over the side every few seconds. Not rain, spray. Ocean, thrown into the air by wind, freezing before it lands. It hits your face like gravel. There is no shelter on this ship, no cabin, no walls, just open planks, a sail, and 40 men who will die of cold before they die of anything else. This is the method the sagas and the surviving Norse fire lore point to. Not one single documented crossing, but a technique passed down because it had to work. Here's the problem. Fire is the only thing standing between you and that death, and there is no way to have fire on this boat. Think about what fire needs. Dry wood, still air, a place to burn that isn't rocking 8 feet up and down every 4 seconds. This ship has none of those things. Every plank on board is soaked. The wind that keeps you moving is the same wind that rips flame apart the instant it appears. And even if you somehow got a fire lit, where do you put it on a wooden boat without burning the boat? You'd think the answer is, you don't. You just freeze. Except thousands of men cross this ocean, in these boats, in this cold, for generation after generation. And they didn't freeze. So what did they do? They carried a fire that wasn't burning. Say that again, slowly, because it doesn't make sense. A fire that isn't burning, that they carried, for days. Here's how insane the real version is. Before the ship ever leaves land, they don't light a campfire and hope for the best. They build a small, hot blaze on shore, let it burn down to a bed of glowing coal, and then, this is the part that sounds backwards, they try to kill it, not put it out. Almost put it out. They pack the embers into thick, wet moss that is dripping, saturated, cold to the touch, the kind of material that should drown a fire in seconds. And the fire doesn't die. It goes quiet. Starve a coal of open air, and it stops flaming, but it doesn't stop existing. Trapped inside wet moss, wrapped again in a tight skin of animal hide, that ember keeps a slow, invisible burn going. No flame, no light. Just heat, sealed inside a bundle that looks from the outside like nothing, more than a lump of wet plant matter sitting in the bottom of a boat. They just carried a captured fire across the North Atlantic, disguised as garbage. But now you have a worse problem than the one you started with. That bundle is not stable. It is not a container. It is a compromise, held in place by a knife edge of moisture and air that somebody has to manage constantly, or one of 2 things happens. Too much air, even by accident, a gap in the wrapping, a gust that finds its way in, and that smoldering coal remembers what it actually is. It reignites, full flame, inside a leather pouch, on a wooden ship, soaked in tar and pitch to make it waterproof, which also makes it burn like a torch. Too little air, and the coal cools past the point where it can be brought back. No spark, no heat, nothing to relight it with. Because remember, there is no dry wood on this boat, no dry tinder, nothing capable of catching a flame, even if you had one. So the crew isn't just carrying fire, they are carrying a countdown in both directions that never stops. And somebody has to sit with it. Feel this for a second. Your job in a storm on this ship is not rowing. It's not fighting. It's sitting with your hands cupped around a smoking bundle of wet moss, feeling for temperature through numb fingers, smelling the exact difference between still alive and about to become a problem. You cannot see inside it. You can only smell it and feel it hour after hour while the boat throws you sideways and the spray keeps coming. Get the smell wrong by a small margin, and you either freeze tonight or you burn tonight. Now picture the night it almost goes wrong. 3 days in. The wind has picked up. Somebody unwraps the bundle to check it, and the wind gets there first. A gust reaches straight into the loosened moss before the hide is pulled back over it. For 2 full seconds, the coal inside remembers oxygen. It glows orange, then white, right there in a man's cupped hands, in the dark, on a boat made of dry enough wood and tar. He doesn't throw it overboard. Throwing it overboard means it's gone, permanently, with no way to make another one out here. He smothers it back down with his bare palms, fast, the way you'd smother a spark landing on your own skin. Except this spark is the only heat 40 men have left between them, and the cold that's already taken their hands. That's the trade every single check of that bundle is making. Move too slow, and it dies. Move too fast, and you've just set your own ship on fire trying to save it. There's no version of this job where you get to relax. So why not just carry 2, 3? Build in a backup, the way you'd back up anything this important. Some crews tried exactly that. A second, smaller ember bundle, sealed apart from the first, on the theory that one bad gust shouldn't be able to take out the only fire on board. But a second bundle is a second thing that can catch. A second thing that needs its own moss replaced, its own moisture checked, its own air balanced by hands already busy keeping the first one alive. More backup didn't mean more safety. It meant twice the number of ways this could go wrong, watched by the same exhausted crew. There was no version of more fire that made this easier. Only different ways to lose it. Here's the part that should stop you. The moss itself was never a container. It was a filter. Wet moss, planned thick, does something specific. It slows the flow of oxygen down to a trickle, just enough to keep carbon glowing without letting it flare. It's not insulation in the way you're picturing. It's a valve. A soaking, half-rotten, foul-smelling valve, built from whatever was growing on the ground near where they camped the night before. Which means the entire survival of the ship depends on how well someone judged the wetness of a plant. Too dry, it burns through in an hour. Too wet, it smothers completely and can't be revived. Nobody is measuring this. There's no gauge. It's touch, smell, and memory. Techniques passed down the same way you'd learn to judge if meat has gone bad, except the mistake here doesn't ruin dinner. It kills the ship, one way or the other. And the hide wrapping around all of this isn't just to keep it dry. It's the last layer between a controlled ember and open fire, on a wooden hull soaked in flammable pitch. One layer of animal skin, packed tight, sitting a few feet from men, rope, sailcloth, and tar. If that bundle ignites fully while it's sealed inside the hide doesn't hold the fire in. It concentrates it. It becomes the thing that turns a coal into a blaze. So think about where you'd actually store something like that on an open, rocking ship, surrounded by the exact materials most likely to catch. You wouldn't put it near the sail rigging. You wouldn't put it near the tar-sealed hull seams. You'd want it low, contained, and as far as physically possible from anything that burns easily, which on this ship is almost everything. There's nowhere that's actually safe. There's only less catastrophic. And every single day of the crossing, that bundle gets opened. Not because anyone wants to, because they have to check it. Feed it a little air, if it's dying. Pack it tighter, if it's flaring. Add a thin layer of moss if the moisture's drying out in the wind. Every check is a moment where the fire could go either way, done by hand, in freezing spray, by someone whose fingers can barely feel what they're touching. This isn't a fire they lit once and left alone. It's a fire they were negotiating with every few hours for the entire crossing. And say the worst happens anyway. Say the moisture balance drifts too far, the wrong way, on a night nobody was watching closely enough, and by morning the bundle is just cold, wet moss wrapped around cold, dead carbon. No glow, no smell of smoke, nothing. There is no flint spark that saves you here. Flint needs dry tinder to catch, and there is no dry tinder on this ship. Every fiber of rope, every scrap of cloth has spent days soaking in salt spray. A dead ember on this crossing isn't an inconvenience. It's the end of the only heat source 40 men have, for however many days of open ocean remain. Which is exactly why the checking never stops, why the job never gets easier, why nobody, who understood what that bundle meant, ever let it go untouched for long. The cold doesn't wait for you to get careless. It's already there, in your hands, right now. And when land finally does appear, when someone finally smells wood smoke on the wind, or peat burning, on some unseen shore, and the ship turns toward it, the first thing that happens on solid ground isn't rest. It's unwrapping that same bundle one more time and coaxing the coal that survived an entire ocean back into an open flame. Everything the crew went through, the smell, the cold hands, the 2 seconds it nearly caught fire, the nights it nearly died. All of it existed for this one moment, a fire that never stopped being a fire, brought back to life on a beach nobody has ever seen before. And here's the detail that reframes everything you just heard. The reason this fire never fully goes out isn't because the Norse found some clever trick to keep it burning. It's the opposite. They found a way to keep it from burning at all, and that restraint was the entire technology, not the spark, not the wood. The discipline to take something that wants to do exactly one of two things: die or consume everything around it, and hold it for days in the impossibly narrow space between those two outcomes. The fire wasn't the tool, the control was. They didn't cross the Atlantic carrying flame. They crossed it carrying the exact moment before flame, over and over for 1,000 miles, without ever once letting it resolve.